What could stand between a wooden building and a bolt of lightning? In 1752, the answer was not a prayer, a charm, or a thicker wall. It was a narrow strip of metal raised into the sky and carried safely into the ground. Benjamin Franklin, a printer, civic organizer, and natural philosopher, helped transform lightning from an apparently divine punishment into a force that could be studied, directed, and survived. The danger was immense. In the 18th century, lightning struck houses, barns, ships, and churches without warning. A single flash could ignite dry timber, shatter masonry, or set gunpowder ablaze. Tall steeples were especially vulnerable because they rose above surrounding buildings. Communities watched helplessly as fire followed the thunder, seeing destruction without understanding the invisible cause. Franklin was already fascinated by electricity, a word then associated with crackling sparks, charged glass, and mysterious attractions between objects. He was not trained in a modern laboratory system because modern electrical science did not yet exist. Instead, he pursued knowledge through correspondence, reading, public demonstrations, and carefully reasoned experiments. His gift was not merely curiosity, it was the ability to connect separate observations into a practical design. Electricity had often seemed like a parlor wonder. Franklin suspected something far greater. The sharp flash of lightning, the spark from an electrical machine, and the sudden shock felt through a conducting object might belong to the same natural family. If lightning truly behaved like electricity, then its terrifying power might obey physical rules, and if it obeyed rules, perhaps buildings could be protected. His reasoning led to a daring proposal. A tall, pointed metal rod placed on a building might draw electrical activity from the surrounding air, or at least provide lightning with a preferred path. That path would run through a conductor and into the earth rather than through a roof, wall, chimney, or wooden frame. The lightning rod was born first as an idea before it became a tested object. The design was deceptively simple. A metal rod rose above the highest part of a structure. Metal connections continued downward along the building and reached the ground, where the electrical charge could disperse. The rod did not make a building immune to lightning. It offered the destructive current a safer route. Protection came not from stopping nature, but from guiding it. That distinction mattered. Franklin was not proposing a magical shield. He was applying a principle already familiar from experiments with conductors. Electricity could travel through certain materials more readily than through others. Metal offered a continuous route. Wood, stone, and human bodies were poorer choices. The challenge was to create an uninterrupted path from sky to earth, strong enough to survive the event it was meant to control. Yet the atmosphere itself was the great unknown. No instrument could simply measure a storm from a safe distance. The strongest electrical displays appeared in clouds, far above the ground, where no experimenter could reach. To test his theory, Franklin needed a way to bring evidence down from the sky without bringing the entire sky down with it. In 1752, that need produced the famous kite experiment. The experiment was not a reckless attempt to hold a metal kite string during a thunderstorm, as later illustrations sometimes suggested. Franklin described a kite carrying a pointed wire upward with a hemp string extending downward. A silk section helped insulate the experimenter from the ground, while a metal key served as a place where electrical charge could gather. The arrangement depended on timing and restraint. The kite was to be raised beneath a thundercloud, but the experimenter was not supposed to wait for a direct lightning strike. Moisture in the hemp string could conduct electrical effects from the charged atmosphere toward the key. When a finger approached the key, a spark could reveal that the cloud possessed electrical charge. The evidence was subtle, but it was enough to make the invisible undeniable. Franklin did not carry out the experiment exactly as popular legend imagines, and the historical record leaves uncertainty about details, including the precise date and participants. His son William was involved in the work, and Franklin's written account explained the method. More importantly, the experiment came after an earlier European test. In France, Thomas François Dalibard had followed Franklin's proposal and obtained electrical effects from an elevated iron rod in May 1752. That earlier success strengthened the theory before Franklin's kite experiment became famous. The kite was therefore not a solitary flash of genius that proved everything in one instant. It belonged to a chain of experiments, communications, replications, and interpretations. Franklin supplied the central insight and the practical direction, while other experimenters helped establish that the atmosphere could indeed be investigated electrically. The risk remained real. A direct lightning strike could have killed Franklin and his son. Electrical experimenters of the period suffered shocks, burns, and sometimes fatal accidents because the boundary between demonstration and disaster was painfully thin. Franklin understood enough to design insulation and avoid direct contact, but understanding did not eliminate danger. Every spark carried a reminder that knowledge was being purchased with exposure. The breakthrough was not simply discovering that lightning was electrical. It was recognizing what that discovery could do for ordinary people. Scientific knowledge became a form of protection. A principle tested with wires, keys, and clouds could be translated into an object fixed above a home. The distance between abstract science and daily safety suddenly narrowed. Franklin's rod also revealed an unusual quality in his character. He did not treat science as a private collection of wonders. He searched for public uses. He studied electricity, but he also worked on fire prevention, street lighting, civic institutions, and practical improvements to urban life. His curiosity moved outward, toward the hazards faced by neighbors, tradespeople, families, and towns. The first lightning rods were not standardized products. Builders had to decide how high the rod should rise, what metal to use, how to attach the conductor, and where the lower end should terminate. A gap, a loose connection, or an inadequate ground could defeat the entire system. The invention's simplicity concealed an engineering demand. Every link in the route had to remain electrically continuous. Franklin favored pointed rods, believing that a point could quietly draw electrical charge from the air and reduce the likelihood of a violent discharge. The protective effect of a rod, however, depended chiefly on providing a reliable conducting path and suitable grounding. Later engineers refined the details. They learned that the visible spike was only the beginning. The hidden route to Earth was just as important. Not everyone welcomed the invention. Some critics considered lightning a force that human beings should not interfere with. Others questioned whether a metal rod might attract lightning rather than prevent it. These concerns were understandable in an age when electrical theory was still developing. A device placed on a roof seemed to invite the very danger it promised to manage. The debate exposed a larger tension in 18th century science. Nature was no longer only a realm of mystery and providence. It was becoming a system of forces that could be measured and manipulated. Franklin's lightning rod stood at that intersection of scientific daring and public infrastructure. It challenged people to believe that humility before nature did not require helplessness before it. As rods appeared on buildings, evidence accumulated through experience. Structures equipped with them had a better chance of giving lightning a controlled route to the ground, reducing the danger of fire and structural damage. The rod could not guarantee safety in every circumstance, and poor installation could still cause failure. But its underlying logic was sound, and its value became increasingly difficult to dismiss. The invention changed the shape of the built environment. Steeples, roofs, warehouses, and other tall structures could now be designed with atmospheric danger in mind. Protection was no longer limited to reacting after a fire began. It could be built into the structure from the start. This was an important shift in infrastructure. Safety became a feature of design rather than a desperate response to catastrophe. Franklin's work also demonstrated how innovation travels. An idea might begin in a letter, be tested in another country, clarified through a dangerous experiment, and then become part of a builder's routine. No single workshop contained the entire invention. Its development depended on communication, replication, criticism, and the willingness of different people to extend an insight beyond its original setting. The lightning rod carried a cultural message as well as an electrical current. It suggested that careful observation could convert fear into foresight. Thunderstorms remained violent. The sky remained beyond human command, but a community no longer had to regard every tall building as a helpless target. A slender conductor could express confidence in reason without pretending that nature had been conquered. The deeper achievement was therefore not the metal spike alone. Franklin helped establish a method of thinking, identify a natural danger, investigate its hidden mechanism, and design a path that reduces its harm. That method would echo through later engineering, from fire protection to electrical safety. The same imagination that saw unity between a laboratory spark and a storm also saw how knowledge could serve a city. In the end, Benjamin Franklin did not invent safety by making lightning disappear. He invented a way to live more intelligently beneath it. His 1752 experiment linked the heavens to the earth, while the lightning rod linked scientific understanding to human survival. Between cloud and soil, a dangerous force found a safer path, and in that narrow passage, human ingenuity made its mark.